casually dressed and deep in conversation with me, Greg Chalmers. CDDC is sponsored by Pizza Daddy, Lanarkshire's #1 American-style pizza parlour. To stay up to date on new flavours and promotions, then get connected on the socials. The Instagram handle is @RealPizzaDaddy and the website is www.thepizzadaddy.co.uk. To see what we're getting up to here at Casually Dressed, then you can find us on Instagram with the handle @CDDC Podcast, and on Twitter it is @PodcastCDDC. Also, as you're watching this on YouTube, then please hit those like and subscribe buttons. And with me today, as usual, is my friend, cohort and podcast life partner, Christopher Shields.
How you doing, my man?
I'm good, mate, I'm good. And with us today for our Screw COVID, we're sitting in the same room to have a conversation podcast, is 50% of Glasgow's alt-rock powerhouse, Layaway. Rob and Stu, how you doing, boys?
Good. Hello,
Good.
hello.
Thanks for having us.
How's it going?
So how's things? How's the old lockdown been treating you?
Right, I've been writing a lot, to be fair, but bar that, obviously, no, didn't really do much more. Do you know what I mean? So, like, it's just been a case of waiting until the studio was open. But we've got a power of tunes to come back with, really.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time writing. Obviously, everybody's had a lot more time in their hands to kind of develop their brain a bit more, do what they want to do in the house, outside the house, whatever else. But it's been all about writing for me. Like, I usually do lyrics and chord progressions and stuff like that pretty much constantly as soon as the moment grasps me for a bit of a tearjerker and stuff like that. So
I'm glad you said
I was like, listen, people, like, kids are going to listen to this.
When the moment grasps me for a jerker.
There'll be a beep in there somewhere.
well, you know what it's like when you get the odd twang, you know. It's that time again.
Okay. So, how were you guys? You were saying you were writing. Are you guys like just on Zoom? Just going like 1, 2, 3,
Just in between quizzes and that. Just going, let's do a wee song.
Yeah,
A live snap session.
yeah, we broke Zoom actually. We were that dedicated to it, man. We broke it, man. So, on all the time.
But I think we definitely did. We did a lot of stuff through Zoom. So I think we'll try to do like weekly meetings as well, won't we?
Yeah, we do mostly sort of Messenger or WhatsApp sort of group calls, and it's generally the three. It's usually me, the drummer, you, and then the bass player Fraser are all kind of like quite serious, talking away. And Rob's usually got like fire communities tip mouth or one of these like a top hat or something like that. It's like,
I like to change it up.
or every so often you just hear that. Psh, is he in the pisser? He's in the pisser.
And
Man.
then you've got Dave, our manager, just sitting there going.
Yeah.
But, for anybody that's listening to that, I was nodding my head, by the way.
Just love the idea of Rob sitting with like cat ears. And I mean, he goes like that.
That's essentially how I lived my lockdown. I had a new persona every time when I did. Right, I'm Frank the Lion. Do you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing.
Or out of the blue, you'll just see like a ball coming down. It's one of those ones where you need to do the kind of the head of the ball. I think it was the basketball one. You've got to catch the hooks, and it's like before you know it, Fraser's right in there, man. He's like at 24, 25.
Somebody's having a serious conversation about what we need to do next, and guys like that try to catch these basketballs. It was fun times.
Yeah, so I wrote this really sombre song about death and reality, and you know, I'm just really struggling to cope with this one. Bing, bing.
Rob's just playing a wee game of ping pong.
I dressed as a shark. Like that. No, it was good.
Right, okay, boys. So, because just for anyone who's maybe not heard of you, I know that's probably unlikely.
Very
Here's hope.
How did Layaway start?
So Layaway started, basically I played in bands for a long time as a bass player, and the band I was playing in at the time, the singer went travelling to Australia, and your kind of classic sort of easterly front of I'm going to travel, guys, I'm going to travel and find myself, yes. Right. And from the west coast of Scotland, then I'm quitting drinking, quitting smoking, and going to find myself. Wow. So he spent 6 months trying to find a job and smoking and drinking. Anyway, so, but he basically pissed off, and I still wanted to keep playing. I've always wanted to kind of sing and play a bit more guitar and write. I did always do a lot of writing anyway, but I just always struggled with singing. So I just kept going to the studio myself with the acoustic to start with. And then I met Rob on a night out in Balch. You wouldn't believe it, you know. And
Rob was in a night out
the barfly that he is. so like at the time, he's a changed man now.
Is he?
Is he? I don't know. But anyway, so I met him on a night out, and we'd known each other for years just through the music scene in sort of Dumbarton, Balloch, the whole sort of Vale area. And just got talking to him and telling him what I was doing, and he was like, yeah, I'm up for that, I'll come for an acoustic jam. And that's how the band sort of started, as a drinking buddy basically. We used to go to the studio maybe 12 o'clock in the afternoon for a few beers. One beer turned into 6 beers and songwriting and good times.
I started getting wild, like people were bringing, like, you were in there for 4 hours and like you'd show up with 12 cans and I'd come in with like 12 cans and go, how are you going to drink 24 cans? And like, literally
I was like, what about these bottles of wine?
I know. He's got a wine cooler like that as well, like, 3 hours. So I think the girlfriends fell out with each other and ourselves probably quite a lot during that time. But that was good. Like, it was obviously like, we had a power of songs like by the end of it as well, so it was good to have like a starting kind of shape to the band, I suppose. So it was when me and you kind of, I suppose, actually solidified everything, like getting other people in was obviously a lot easier because like you'd
like a body of work, you'd a body of work to go with. But it was a case of like the original kind of concept for the band was like, especially like I was just kind of trying to learn how to sing, and I wasn't quite confident in saying I'm going to sing all the time. So I was like, well, we can do like double vocals and sort of, you know, question and answer sort of stuff all the time. And it started off as acoustic, and then kind of just built from there as soon as we got the drummer involved, Ewan, and he was the first drummer that we sort of auditioned or got to come along for a jam, and we were just like that. Well, he sent a tape into us, and it was Uptown Funk. Was it Uptown Funk?
Yeah, it was. It was
Uptown Funk, man. And like you could tell when these players like, this guy's got like really good groove in that, and Rob's like, I don't know, man. He's not heavy enough for me, man. And like he came along and he killed it, and he was like, yeah, I used to play in a metal band, and we're like, hey, go for a smoke. Like, I need to get this guy, man. I need to fucking get him, man.
And you know, one of those things like it's like when you get a Christmas present, it's like you like it, but you go, I don't want to tell people how much I actually feel about this. As soon as you left the room, I was like,
well, luckily enough, he was into it, because like the hardest thing to get in bands is always drummers and bass players, man. It's like drummers and bass players. Like, see when you find a good one, it's like so hard just to keep a hold of them, even, man. Because drummers are generally nutcases anyway, and bass players are always like the moodiest sort of like artistic kind of guys that just kind of go into a band. Some of them are into it, other ones are more just like in it just to like, oh, I'm in a band, and it's like the hardest position to fill and have like a dedicated guy. That's why so many bands, a guitarist ends up becoming the bass player because he's into the band, you know what I mean? Yeah. And just kind of takes over that, because if you just got like a dedicated bass player, usually it's like they're not really. I mean, we went through how many bass players? About like 8 or something.
8 bass players.
Like there was a guy came in, man, and like there's always a bit of bravado, and we were messaging this guy, and he was like, yeah, I'll come for a jam. And I was like, oh, what's your experience? Have you done recording, gigging, all these sort of things? We're looking for a guy that can come in and just hit the ground running, man. And he's like, well, if you're asking me if I've played in a band before, yes, I have practiced in my friend's living room. And I'm like, I was like, we'll get this guy to come in anyway, man, regardless. He might be young and like just keen to go for, man. And the guy walked in, man, right? And he's never been into a studio before, like a rehearsal situation. So he's walked in, man, and he's sitting there. At the time, you were all pure dinged up, like you are now, pure stylish and that, man, with the guitar.
That's just fashion shit, that's just how it works.
Yeah, well, tell me about it sometime, man. I keep lacking it. Anyway, so he walks in with like, everybody's got the big amps, man. Ewan's sitting with like the pure massive set of cymbals, and he just pure turned as white as a sheet, man. You know what I mean? He sat down and put his head into his hands, man. And I was like, this guy's not going to go well, man. You know what I mean?
He played like 2 games of guitar here and went, I can do this.
It's the equivalent of a guy playing football. If a guy turns up, you go, what position do you play, mate? Oh, just anywhere.
all of them.
Moon chicken. You have no idea what you're doing.
Shows like the one goalie glove like that. I can't on his back.
The
funny the ones with the wee patches on it.
The funny thing is, man. The funny thing is though, the guy like, so he like stayed for a couple of songs. I actually had to write down what he was going to play on the whiteboard, man. And then like you I think you were having a few drinks and that, right? And the guy, we went out for a meeting, and I was like to you, and this guy's got to go, man. And you think you'd give the guy a beer, man, right? And then you're like, oh, we'll give him a chance. And I was like, nah, he's gone, man. And he was like, bastard, I just gave him a beer, man. And he left part of his guitar in the studio as well, man. I've still got that in the house, actually.
Part of his guitar?
It's like a wee sort of Warwick bass thing. It's like a wee fancy token thing. I was like, that's getting kept there. Pure magpie.
Call that ship player tax.
We used to take somebody up the road and they just leave like a purse or something like that so they can come back. Like,
Mate, remember that story what happened to me with that lassie? So this lassie stayed at my house, right? If my mum ever listens to this, don't believe it, Wendy. This lassie stayed at my house, And the first time she stayed, she did that. She left a Michael Kors watch at the side of the bed.
Like cash converters.
So the next day, for a phone call, I've left my watch at your house. And I was like, alright, so she came back. And then she did the same thing the next time. And then she phoned me the next day after the second time and I think I left my I left my watch at your house. And I was like, no, I didn't. 120 quid cash converters.
I've got another one that's very similar, right? So my friend had met this girl on a night out and stuff like that. This guy was an absolute gentleman, of course, as you are. Back to his stayed the night, whatever else happened. So he wakens up in the morning, he's like a little skulk about. Everyone's still asleep. Well, there's her purse sitting there, nipped into it, $5 out it, and was like to her, there's a $5 for your taxi up the road, 10. Horrible man, horrible man.
Was that you?
I knew a guy once.
No, that 100% was not me.
So you were talking about the drummer came in. He was obviously he'd played in a metal band and stuff like that before. So what are your influences then?
I'll let you go first, man.
Well, I think I kind of take it for everything, to be honest.
Maybe a wee bit closer to the mic, Robert.
Sorry. I think I kind of take it for a lot of places, to be honest. Quite eclectic, like the way I kind of listen to music, but with me it's always been a big melody thing. So like, I think you get different types of guitarists, and I've said this for ages. So obviously you get your average boys that just come in and just want to shred the life out of you, and like, but with me it's always about going, alright, cool, that's a chord sequence there, like how can I bring, like once the vocals are laid in on it, how can I come with a different melody that complements it? And over the past few years I've kind of tried to really solidify myself into going, right, cool, well, once I hear how the lyrics go over it, how can I take that for just being great lyrics and a great chorus to having another hook in it? So even if people came in, like, would walk away going da-na-na-na, and they'll sing that wee kind of thing. So for me that's probably the most important thing, the way I kind of write music.
And the way I describe it, like Rob was like he's like the kind of perfect guitarist for what I wanted. Like I didn't want a guy that could shred like, because it's just like everybody that's a great guitarist can do that, and it gets boring really quickly, and it's just not the sort of style I'm into. I prefer more kind of textures and sort of like atmospheric sort of melodic things. And I literally just said to you, like, I just want somebody that can be like the icing on the cake, man, and he just like totally fits that bill, man, completely, man. You know what I mean?
Well done, Robert.
Well, do you know what I mean? I do try. I try amazingly, but I do try. But that
influences.
Influences, mate. You can't influence yourself.
I tried.
I'm my biggest influence.
Pretty good.
Like, you can do this. But,
Who is Rob Lees?
I would probably say I'm a lot more old school, man. So like, I love like kind of like the old kind of rock and roll that's kind of just totally punchy. Like, so I love like CDDC, like Guns N' Roses, that kind of thing. Massive Motley Crue fan, but it is just, it takes somebody for like from start to finish in a full pelt kind of scenario, But I like that kind of thing. But it's so hard because I think CBC just end up writing so much music as well. Like, I hardly have any time to even check out new bands, and like, don't get me wrong, sometimes I'll go on a wee binge and I go, alright, cool, that was kind of kicking about in it, and you'll listen to one album and love it, but like, I just think nobody writes the albums that they did back then, do you know what I mean? Like, so
It's changed, man.
So like, stuff like concept albums and that, you don't get anything like that, do you know what I mean? And it's one of these things where if you listen to one song in itself, you go, I don't know if I like it, but when you listen to the complete album, you go, that makes total sense, do you know what I mean? So I love things like that.
I also think stuff's overproduced now.
Of course.
We were, Rob and I, you and I spoke about this on countless occasions. See, when you listen to the old school pop punk albums, right, you can literally hear the sweat dripping off somebody's fucking nose.
Passion's there straight away in tape,
totally,
man.
Just in the background drinking a juice, do you know what I mean?
He's drinking Five Alive.
Vimto.
Whereas now, I mean, we listen to the new Neck Deep album, and it's brilliant, right? But it's kind of missing that, like, hit or miss, Newfound Glory, Anti-Flag stuff. Like, do you know, back, it just sounds like shit.
But I think now, like, especially like, obviously, the way that music's going, like, people like depend on live stuff and that now. But when people hear an album that's that polished and then they go and see a band and it's nowhere near it, they go like, wow, man, why did I pay 30-40 quid to come and see this? Do you know what I mean? And that in its sense, but like, your average Joe isn't happy. Like, well, live album anymore. Like, if you heard a mistake in it, you go, it's crap.
That's the problem, is that we're getting so desensitised to perfection that it's like before, when I kind of done stuff at uni and stuff like that, and like they always said, like, you know, it's great when you start getting into recording and into music and you can actually hear where mistakes happen, or you can hear where, you know, they've just left that in, sort of thing.
Yep.
Whereas now it's like perfection or nothing, you know what I mean? And like, you know, it's just gets so boring, especially seeing like metal as well. Like metal, like, there's literally like one drum sound.
Yeah.
It needs to be massive, but it's like everybody's using the same samples, and everybody goes like, wow, the drums sound incredible, and you're like, but see, if you're listening to that constantly, it's just like it's boring, man. Like, it's really boring really quickly. And
because like everything's like sound replaced now, is like by the time that even a drum track goes down in these kind of like these like singles or like tracks or whatever else, none of it's the real drum sound.
It's almost the back.
It's all sound replaced. It's all.
Yeah.
Well, it just shocks me how many modern metal bands actually use programmed drums now, and like you hear it, and when you hear the demos, and it's just basically, it sounds amazing when it's mixed and stuff like that, because they can artificially create dynamics in there and stuff to make it sound more humanised.
Yeah.
But it's programmed, and you're like, if you were a drummer, surely you'd be raging at that, man. You know what I mean? Like, I wish, like, I want to play my parts.
It's literally bringing a robot in to do your job, innit? You know what I mean? You're like,
I sound class, man. Good luck, boys. Follow it.
It's like AI, isn't it?
Aye.
AI drums.
So like that's essentially the way it's getting there, and obviously in a sense I think we kind of try and bring that back a wee bit, because we obviously do a lot of stuff in house and we don't really go to studios. Obviously studios built up a kind of plethora of just every bit of music equipment under the sun, man. So the fact
Yeah, a bit of a music coder then, a bit of music
100%.
equipment.
Oh, it's ridiculous, man. Like, I've literally got stuff from like years ago, and like, I've still got a digital hard disk that's like a Zoom 6 track.
Yeah.
I've still got that from like when I was, I don't know, it must be about 16, 17 years old, man. Still works, man. And we've used it a couple of times at gigs. I've took it to a gig and just said to the engineer, I don't need it now because I can take a wee interface, but a couple of our gigs have actually been recorded on this thing, and I'm like, yeah, still getting used.
That's
It's
brilliant,
like,
that's it.
it's a piece of rubbish, man, but it's like, at the time it was like, whoa, man, Jesus Christ.
Oh, cassettes, man.
No, it's not quite a cassette, it's not as quite, no, hold on, not that old school, man, but
I've got cassette decks next door.
it's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say, was like, when you were talking about the perfection thing, is a lot of the time, and like, you've got bands like the Foo Fighters, and like, they still track to tape because you can't edit tape the same way. I think they do import it into Pro Tools for mixing and stuff like that, but you can't edit the same way to tape on tape as that you can if you're just tracking into Pro Tools. You can just hit a few key commands and you can like edit things really, really quickly, whereas when you're on tape, it's on tape, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder to edit. So I think a lot of it's to do with the older sounds, a lot to do with tape, and you can't really replace things as easy. You
They
can't.
still do like garage albums as well.
Aye, yeah.
yeah, it just puts a lot more onus on the actual musicians rather than
Totally.
going,
Aye.
I'll just use this robot
It's
to
more
to
on the
polish
ability
me.
than
Aye.
anything else.
It's amazing how quickly like, you can be found out in the studio, man, because
Yeah.
as soon as the records button hit, man, and you're like, did I sound like that? Do you know what I mean?
Oh no, I've totally went wrong with that.
Aye.
I'm out.
That lyric does not make sense now, man. Like, you know.
But to be fair, like I know myself, man. Like I've wrote stuff and went, wow, man, that sounds class in the studio, and then you go to record it and go, whoa, that's wild.
I've been there a few times myself.
But like in the studio, you're like, that sounds fucking crazy. As soon as you put it down the track, you go, that's wild. Like, that's nowhere near what they're playing, man.
So you never said about who your influences were?
So my kind of classical influences, like I kind of grew up, my dad was really into all these kind of late 80s, sort of like Mike and the Mechanics, Genesis, The Police, all these sort of like big, sort of, like, I'm just a massive fan of like big, epic, ballady. I want my hairs to be standing up. Like, when I listen to music, I want to like connect with it. I'm not really interested in listening to. Like, see, I like nothing better than see if I can listen to classical music and like figure out the chord progression and then play it on piano myself. I'll then straight away start like writing over that or start thinking about how I can do this. You know what I mean? Like,
how am I going to rip that off?
pretty much, aye. There's no copyright chord progressions.
Copyright chord progressions. You heard it here first, people.
So, but like, for example, there's that. I was telling the guys last night about a song that I've done, and it was like Maroon 5. That song Memories. So that's based around Canon in D. Or is it Canon in D?
Canon
That's that song that you'll know it from like.
Oh yeah, it's a
like,
wedding song.
Aye, so but that's that exact chord progression runs through that entire song, and I'm just like, boom, that's getting done, man. So I've literally just put it out on guitar, and I'm like, this is brilliant, man. Never know people use this all the time. It's just so. But the key is like when you're doing things like that, is like it's like having the balls to basically have that familiarity in, for example, the chorus, but the rest of the song you can change it up and put your own bit of flair. But people like that familiarity, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
There's only so many chords you can go through, man. I mean, I don't know if there's countless videos where guys will go like that, right, I can play about 27 songs.
20 songs,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, eventually it does come around, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we that what are they called? The cinematic. What are they called? Matt, Google that for us, will you? Cinematic. They did the song for the Stephen Hawking movie. Cinematic, some orchestra.
Oh, I know.
It's called Arrival of the Birds or Flight of the Birds.
right,
Oh
okay.
my, you need to listen to that, man.
Right, I'll
'Cause
check
I
it out,
think there's
man.
about 4 tunes in it for you.
Cool, man.
Everyone's half an hour, so it should be sound. Take a day right up.
Mac, I think it's something to do with like Flight of the Birds.
It's not Flight of the Bumblebee, is it?
No, that's
Let's play it in this
that's basically the backing track for when Rob's cleaning his flat.
I know.
Just comes
15
like
minutes, done.
comes
Slow
there smoking a
Nipped.
fag.
But
Arrival of the Birds.
Arrival of the Birds, and what's the group called?
The Cinematic Orchestra.
I'll check it out, man.
Yeah, you
Cool,
need-
man. So yeah, I saying my influences generally are just big epic music, early stuff from the 80s, all your sort of big epic things from there. As I said, Making the Mechanics, all these sort of, you know, ballads, all that crap, man. But in modern times, like my taste in music started with sort of Marilyn Manson and all your kind of Korn and your kind of new metal, Limp Bizkit, all these. That's when I started getting into heavier things, and I'm a big massive fan of Thrice. Huge fan of them. Funeral for a Friend, which I'm guessing this podcast is named after with the album.
Shut up, man.
I know. So you're not the only one that can call the police out, Cap.
I know. I was thinking there is copyright in stealing somebody's album name, but
Let us ask you some questions.
So big. But
we're PRS.
so but like yeah, Thrice is a massive, and Fight Star and all these other kind of alternative metal, but not like
Emo.
not emo. Yeah, a lot of emo stuff, man. Yeah, so
Big emo boys in here.
That's it.
got a
Love a
shed
dance,
a
long
shed a
fringe.
tear
Love it.
free.
Aye, totally. If you kidded on to play the guitar in the Under's Cat House,
Aye,
You
a pair
did
of
that,
checked
eh?
Vans on, that was
Yeah.
that's it.
that's
that's
basically
it,
it.
man.
Yeah, and you had like a blind patch on your fucking Jansport bag and hung about in Central Station hugging everybody. That was us.
Wore a pair of jeans with a racing stripe there.
Forgot how to swing your arms.
Yeah, man.
Sitting in groups cross-legged in the pavement, just cause.
Or in a train station.
On the phrase,
Yeah, that was that. So tell me about your songwriting process, gentlemen. I know you kind of touched on it earlier on, but I think it can't just be you two, and then you
But-
just go to the drummer.
Right. Well, basically, I will come up with ideas about. Generally, recently I've just been starting with trying to write a good chorus, and then building from there. Because I can usually, whatever the chords are, I can usually pretty much figure out where I would like to go with the verses, bridges, and stuff like that. But I'll generally just come with ringing out chords and lyrics or an idea, and take it to the guys, and then the guys will just build all their own parts around about that. And then obviously it's a free rein where, you know, this is like this, well, why don't we try, you know, it'll be a bit of experimentation as well, to and fro sort of thing, just to whatever fits the song. And it's, you know, it's like that is generally the process, I would say.
Like, I mean, there's a bit of democracy for it, obviously there's kind of change. I mean, I know myself, like, I've recently as well, I know I've changed up. Like, I used to, as soon as the music was there, I would go, alright, cool, well, this is going to be the chorus, this is the verse, I'll just write melody over this. But like, the amount of times you end up changing it because the lyrics come in and you go, that sounds whack, do you know what I mean? Like,
Sounds whack.
I don't know why I became ghetto there for 10 minutes. But I'm just really trying not to swear, to be honest.
Mate, fucking swear all you want.
Right, okay, fuck. But,
Fuck for that.
I know.
Just everyone, let's punch it here. Fucking hell.
I like how that was your go-to, was just go, fuck.
I know. But like, I've totally changed now, so I kind of prefer it to be the music and then at least like some part of lyrics, because then I know where I can go with it and how far I can stretch it and stuff like that as well. And then I like, once that's kind of solidified, we kind of take it in and like boys will add on to it, so like Fraser and you and like you know, put beat to it, like Fraser will put the bass and whatever else, and then we kind of work it to there and then try and change the dynamic of the song. So it comes in as like almost like half shell, but it's like democracy really, do you know what I mean? Because I know myself, man, I've been in bands over the years, man, as well, when it came in, like, that was that, do you know what I mean? Like, that's it, wrote now. Like, you
Yeah.
just need to add on to it, and like, there's no room for change, and this is how it's going to be, and like, blah, and like,
Generally, it is like that anyway, but
But it's good. But it's probably
No,
as you get older, though, I'd imagine
Of course.
that everyone
Aye.
has to kind of appreciates that everyone's bringing their own thread and their own
Aye.
strengths to the table. So they just-
we've wrote songs and then came back to them like 8 months after.
Longer than that, man.
So like, our kind of
Like,
rule is
longer
once it's
than that, man.
recorded, it's recorded. Do you know what I mean? But
aye.
in between that time that it's no down, like, you can go back to it, you can change wee bits, because we played songs live and then came back in and went, well, no, wait a minute, man, like,
I didn't.
that didn't really work like that, like, and then tore it apart and came back with it again and then recorded it. Do you know what I mean? So
I'm never really satisfied with like I always generally like, in my mind I just generally know when I'm happy with the chorus is just always a big thing for me, man. I just always like if I don't like the chorus like, straight away it'll niggle away with me for months and months and months, won't it? And I'll come in like even until then had a different chorus up until about a month before it was recorded.
on this song, yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it was like, if it's not right, we'll just keep working on it until it is, because you can't get a vibe, you can't get a feel for when it's finished, sort of thing.
How long did it take you to write until then?
Well, that was one of the few. That was one of the songs where I didn't actually come in with a chord progression. That was actually a jam song. So that basically got jammed in the studio musically, and then I went away and did lyrics for it.
So I think I had that riff at the start of it.
Aye.
Goes through the full, well,
Yep.
goes through the full song, but like, how like comes in like the intro kind of chorus and then at the end kind of thing. But I had that, and then I think Ewan just jammed something on the drums that kind of went from there on.
Aye.
And then after that we wrote down the verse, and it kind of like obviously you builded on it from then, but built on it, builded on it.
Aye.
Built on it from
Bob
Okay.
the builder did it.
there. The Builder Brothers.
It took a while, but like, and we had like kind of the outro wasn't the way it is now. But I just like I've for years and years and years I've wanted to write. I had those lyrics. When I dream it's in black and white. It doesn't seem so real. When I dream it's in black and white. I'm numbing how I feel.
Do you know what I actually do in black and white?
Yeah.
Ah,
So I had that kind of concept
Maybe
of
Rider or something.
I had that concept, and the song's kind of about the kind of content of it's like about addiction and all that. So it's different perspectives
Yeah.
of addiction in a person's life, and then towards the end it's like it's almost like a kind of self-preservation realization thing with however the song's about or whatever. And but I wanted to get that concept in a song, and that didn't happen straight away, and then it kind of did. So but it worked out pretty cool, man.
That's it as well. I mean, I remember like we've wrote full songs, and I know you've had kind of backstories, lyrics where you've tried it on it, and you've set it down in a song, and then like 2 months later you go, well listen, that's just not for this song. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the
Aye.
great thing about our band is the fact that we do kind of give and go with each other. Do you know what I mean? Like I love that fact, but it's like it's a complete collaborative. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Yeah.
And it's good that way. It worked well. Seems to work out well for us anyway.
Aye, no,
So
definitely.
tell me about the music video stuff, man, because I've seen them all. Right, so there's a definite theme running with them all. I always get it's very cinematic.
Aye.
It obviously fits the music and
Aye.
stuff like that.
Kind of go big or go home kind of material.
Yeah,
That-
it's
that is
basically
the-
a lot of it's just Rob looking really fucking awkward. Just see that one where you're lying in your bed.
I 12 weeks into lockdown. and lockdown sheepish.
I would just like to say I don't usually look like that.
I was like,
I was having a rough look.
He's just usually he's wearing a shark costume playing fucking ping pong.
Aye, that was my Tom Hanks era.
I was like,
material.
pure castaway into it, man. It's like,
And the weird thing as well is like after my beard got to a certain length, it just started growing one way, so it just always looked as if I was standing in a storm.
that's because you're constantly lying down.
If you turn me upside down, I'd look like an gnome. Do you know what I mean? That's crazy. But I don't know why more people never told me that was a terrible idea, but also
Because it was funny, because obviously I've seen you doing it, right? And you're selling it, man. You're like giving it the full 9, right? And then it just cuts to Bob, and he's trying not to laugh. He's like,
But the thing is, what people don't see in that part is like obviously I'd filmed that bit myself in my house, right? And apparently it was crap. So, like I asked to do it again.
This was the original.
This was the original, right? And I looked a lot better in that one.
No,
Do you know
you
what I mean?
didn't.
Like the lighting was nice, it was good, man.
No, it wasn't.
It's
And
soft.
then we went in, like, then obviously lockdown started to get a wee bit eased. Is like, and I was running at Stuart's house, and he's like, right, we'll just do it here. Like, and he takes me into this bright white room, right?
What, tucked you in?
Like his spare bedroom, right? He's standing with like a camera over me, right? And he's trying to film me, and like obviously, lockdown was bad. It was dark in my house. There was a lot of drinking on the go as well. So, broke out, man. I looked as if I'd been on the sunbed for about a year and a half. And he's standing there with this camera going, "Go for it!" Like animated, right? And like, so that's why it was.
I thought it looked alright, man. That looks pretty good.
Mate, listen, just because I know him.
Aye.
Sure, we'll watch
It's
him.
always like that, but
Yeah.
man, you know what I mean? When you know
Yeah.
someone, it's like...
Because it's so bright in the background, like it's something that people go, oh, that really stood out there, do you know what I mean? And,
Sure.
You're just focused on it as well.
So before that though, what song was it when you were filming on top of the car park thing?
That's Kicking Windows.
Aye, right. So again, big man Stu's selling it. Rob's the background. I think it's because I know him, but and I just think
it is
he's
all
always
be.
looking about like that, spotting snipers. Do you know what I mean?
that was a cool music video. It was.
That
but,
was.
like some really awkward times in that as well. So like.
There's actually a pretty there's a few cool stories about that music video, actually.
So when we done it, like, so we're trying to find a car park that was going to let us do it, and eventually we got hold of like this one. Like, oh, listen, like that's totally fine. But I think they thought like obviously we were a lot bigger than we were, so that I think they were expecting like kind of Rihanna and that to pop up, and we're just like, all right, we're up there.
The guy that makes our music video, Gordon Campbell, 86 Media, Goggy, a wee plug for the guy, man. He's a legend, obviously, man, and he's done all our sort of bigger kind of budget music videos, and we love working with him because he always like he listens to the music, and then like whatever comes to him, I'm like, you know, challenge accepted sort of thing. So he listened to that song and he was like, imagine this like getting filmed in a car park, or like a roof, not a car park, like a rooftop or something like that. And I was like, challenge accepted, man. So I ended up like scouring basically all of Glasgow, trying to find somewhere that we could film, man. And then eventually we got the car park, and they were like, oh, you need to take out like public liability insurance and that, man. So I had to do all that, and I had to get like high-vis clothing for everybody that was involved in that, man, you know what I mean? But it was like, we'd had like the 2 floors of it, because if it was raining, we'd have to go downstairs and do the filming down the stairs. But we basically get free rein, and it was actually pretty cool, man, you know what I mean? But we get rained off and all that, it was net mental, man, you know?
Halfway do it, like, so obviously where we were in the car park, there was like a tiny wee section below, so like people were going to their work and stuff like that, and going like, what's going on here? And then right in front of us you had a hotel, and then next to that there was just this massive high rise. So by the end of it, guys were like, on you score! Shouting for them. And there was like about 20 feet, you're trying to jump around, there's like 20 people like in this hotel like that, there's the windows.
Mate, you missed a trick, man. You should have draped a Layaway banner down the side of the building, so that everyone would have known who it was, and then your Spotify went through the roof.
That was mental as well. I mean, even when we did that, so we had to do stuff out with the car park as well. So there's a bit where like we went down to like
So the Clyde side into it?
the Clyde side. So there's this bit in the music video where like Stu's like lying down essentially.
Oh,
and,
face down, yeah.
and I don't know what happened, but just like a power of tourists came out of nowhere. And like guys were like that.
Was it
Taking all these photos, and I'm like, what about ass neck this guy has, man? Because it wasn't even me.
There's like down in the Broomy Law, man. Oh, down in the Broomy Law, man. So there's a few questionables down that neck of the
Interesting
woods.
characters in that neck of the woods.
I'm
Like,
lying face down like this with my hands at my side, right? Like, and I'm like shouting, but I'm actually singing the entire song, man. There's a bloke going by like that. Oh my god, what's wrong with me now? And he's like, he's just a music video, man. It's good.
And like there was a great outtake, man, that I think we actually do have in video sometimes. So like, see that bridge that's down there as well.
Aye.
Right, so like I think it's like the very end of the song. Like, Stu's like walking down this bridge. So I had to wait for ages until it was clear. Right.
Aye, trying to get the bridge rolling on it, man.
At one point, this guy comes in a motorised wheelchair, right, and he's behind Stuart, and it's one of these things where like in the video you can just see him go.
Oh really?
It's actually overtaken. So Goggy's sitting with this camera walking back to me, Stu's walking towards him, and this guy's like that in the background, trying to maneuver himself around him on this bridge. And honestly, it was incredible. The guy was so angry, man, and he's obviously looking at him as if he's a crackpot, because he's walking across this bridge screaming that song, and it's like I have a camera there, and he's trying to pass him. And like, and I'm at the other side going like, this is timeless, man. Like, how is nobody getting up on it? This is unreal. But like that was hilarious. I totally forgot about that until right then.
So see, obviously there's been stories when you're filming music videos and stuff like that, but you guys have been in tour,
Aye.
right? And I know what happens on tour stays on tour. However,
Allegedly.
until now, that wasn't even rehearsed. So my first part of the question is, what's touring life like? You any good stories?
Grim.
Also, obviously with COVID, and all the venues and stuff like that have all had to shut their doors and all that sort of stuff. So what do you see the future of live music being in relation to you guys?
Good question. Like, we're probably lucky enough or unlucky enough, depending on what way you look at it, that we're not that big. So,
you talking about?
So
we've been sound.
So we've been sound playing on Moss cupboards. But no, man. Like, I think we'll be lucky enough that when venues do start taking a slow open, that the smaller ones hopefully will get a wee sort of boost first, because they're the ones the most that kind of threaten stuff like that. So we might be lucky enough to kind of, I think when that opens up, it'll be like a wave of kind of bands playing and stuff like that, and it might be smaller numbers. I think, but they were talking about gigs now, about how they were only going to allow in 10% or something like that, and it was like, or 20%, whatever it was, and that's just unattainable, whatever. But I think it will be good. Like, when it kind of opens up again, we'll get the smaller venues, so we'll be able to get back out there and start kind of promoting, and there might be more of a kind of grassroots vibe or whatever, or a kind of growth. There might be a kind of, whatever you call that again, a kind of revolution in the independent music front.
I think every band around took a big hit. Do you know what I mean? I know us as well. Like, we had a lot of festival stuff that we'd planned that we not really got to do. But I suppose it's just trying to look at brighter horizons, really, isn't it? But
it's all about kind of, we just kind of need to get on with it and just kind of like keep creating content, and we've got the world in our pocket on our phones, man. You know what I mean? So we're promoting the last single. There was people like all over, and I don't care the fact if it's only like one or two people in somewhere like India, or there was bloody people in Alaska and all this listening to the last song, and it blows my mind the fact that we recorded this song in Dumbarton, produced in my house, we release it, and there's a wee guy sitting in Jaipur like that.
We had a similar thing, right? Yeah. So when we started releasing the podcast, Chris was like, mate, do you know that our biggest, what was it, Michigan?
Aye, we were like,
big in Michigan, bro.
You're like, oh my,
so just
Michigan,
right now, just want to give a big shout out to all our listeners in Michigan.
You're like, shit, loads of people, and then all of a sudden there's like weird places.
And then he's like, mate, we had something like 40 downloads in Guatemala.
Yeah, people going,
who the fuck is listening?
Like Romania and stuff.
Who can understand us?
Exactly.
These guys are probably like, listen, I've got a laugh coming out of my eyes. What are they talking about?
Listen to these clowns. These clowns. Guess what language that is? It's English.
I
know. Right, so tell us touring stories, boys. I said we weren't allowed to vape, man.
So you outlaw you.
Podcast, and I'll do what I want.
Like, touring wise, so like the tour we went on was like a kind of 6-date tour thing, and it happened. It was like a kind of happy accident, but at the same time it was like, oh my god, I can't believe we've actually got ourselves into this. So basically we got offered a gig in London, and we're like, yeah man, we need to do it, we need to go to London, we need to do it. So this was on like the Friday, and our current manager, Dave Maxwell, wasn't actually managing us at the time, but he kind of got involved and helped us out with promoting and booking us for a few things and stuff. So he basically says, let me send a few emails out, I'll see what I can get around about this London show, make it worth your while going down and do a few things. So he came back to us about a week later and he's like, I've got your show, man, it's Wednesday. And I'm like, alright, cool, Wednesday, so we just need to get Thursday, and that's his face. He's like, no, the next Wednesday. And I'm like, 6 days later? I'm like, we're not going down to London, coming home, and then going down to Birmingham again. Like, that's like, so
what I've done.
So we tried, but it was like time was ticking away, man. So I was basically, it was like, right, basically shut my cupboard, shut the curtains in the house, everything, man, locked myself in with the headphones, and just sent about 400 emails to like every like venue I could get, man. You're talking about cupboards, basements, rehearsal spaces, man, just to get like
dark gigs we did,
just to get the who's who of Middle England, man. You know what I mean? It's like, so you
Leamington Spa, what's happening?
I mean, it literally was like a tour of like days of bygone present or something like that. It was like, it literally was the who's who of forgotten cities, man. So you basically had like,
if you mention an English city, we've played the darkest corner of it.
It was literally like Sheffield, like outside Manchester. What was that place again? It wasn't Manchester, it wasn't as sexy as that. It was like
Salford,
Stockport. Stockport, man, Sheffield, Birmingham,
Burnley as well,
London, and Leeds. So it was like but the places we were playing, it was like in industrial estates, we're like surrounded by factories that were like closed down. Like now in the Monty Python, that film Monty Python, he's kind of walking around the old kind of steelworks and stuff like
No,
that.
you're thinking of Phil Monty.
Phil Monty, aye, not
Monty
Python.
Python's the
Aye,
fucking...
Phil Monty. Sorry, man, I knew Monty.
He's
was
not a
in there.
messiah. He's
I know.
not.
I knew Monty was in there somewhere. So yeah.
Only difference is people get naked, really.
Yeah. Always. So yeah, it was basically like that, man. It was basically like that. The steelworks there. It was all these sort of places, wasn't it, man?
Aye, like we played in a lot of dive bars. We played in played in a skate park. No, in fact, it wasn't even a skate park. It was, it was just a park, I think.
Did they book you? They showed up.
I just showed up like up there. We played in played in so many weird places, but
The Black Swan was interesting, and where was that?
that was
Bradford.
But like,
That was dark. That was dark, man.
That place would be nice
Tell
when
me
it's
about that
finished.
sign.
Oh, right,
Tell me about the sign.
Honestly.
I like you finish
See,
this.
to be fair, it's like it ended up being quite a decent gig,
That was
man. To be
cool,
fair,
man.
but like I could like this is how dark this place was. Just like across the road, there was just like these wooden pylons with with this sign. It was like stapled to it, and it was like last season's what was it? Last season's peacocks, 20 quid each, or 150 for 4. Right, and
Peacocks?
It was peacocks.
Aye, somebody was selling live
It
peacocks,
was
or
like,
actual
it was
peacocks.
like, who's punting peacocks? Right, I know even last season's obviously. Do you know what I mean? So
They're not even
obviously there must
fresh.
be what's left.
Aye.
They're slightly dishevelled.
And I mean, are these things
These
alive?
raggedy
Do you know what I mean?
peacocks.
I was like, are these things alive, or are like people actually eating peacock? Don't know. But
That's weird.
it was that sign was wild. Do you know what I mean? But
It was a cool tour though, man. It was basically, the situation was we played like, we organised our own gigs, and then we got like a few paying gigs, so it ended up, it was like almost like a stag do, but we played music every night, man, and like it literally cost us nothing to go on the tour because we were getting paid for some gigs,
Yeah.
and that was subsidising the van and the petrol and all that, and it was some laugh, man. We ended up like hiring an Airbnb, like a 3-floor Airbnb, like for 3 or 4 nights.
and there was 2 bands in it.
Aye,
We
and
had
it
to
was-
lie to them and say that we were a wedding band down for a wedding show kind of thing.
Did you actually?
Yeah, aye, we was like, oh, we're down in business, we're just like doing some session work down here and that, man. And like a guy came to the door one day, he's like, he's down here working or what? And we're like, yeah, we're a working band and stuff like that. But it was cool, man, you know. We went in and like, we're literally 6 guys on a budget, man, like going through all the cupboards, found like these beers best before like 3 years ago. Nah, that'll do it.
That's him. That's him all over it.
And like things like I think one day Stu disappeared for like it must have been a good hour and a half. So we played this place and we get back in the house about what, midnight or something like that. And woke up in the morning, he's nowhere to be seen, can't answer his phone, and he's came back and just made this pure, absolute beautiful spaghetti bolognese, and he's out with red wine and all that. So that was incredible. And these just 4 bands, everybody's hungover, nobody's ever appreciated it. You just went, oh, this is class, man. It's like, you could have put like a bowl of cereal or something. This is the best cereal I've ever had. Because everybody was just sitting there adrift. But
I remember I made a big massive, it was like a big lasagna thing,
Oh, it was
of pasta
lasagna,
bake,
yeah.
but it was a pasta bake that night, but we literally lived off of that for the last 2 days, and it was like, by the end of it we were having like
You know what
pieces and
kind of
pasta. Like, it was like, Ewan was like, I think by the end of it, Ewan was like, I just can't wait to go home and no eat carbs. But,
I even remember before we got the Airbnb, we obviously had to spend a few nights in the van and stuff like that
man.
as well, and it was horrific, man. So we
4 days in a van.
Aye, well, like before we picked up the album, so it was another band that came on tour with us, as if just check them out. But before we picked them up, we had to spend a couple of nights in the van. Like I remember, never even thought about doing stuff like, because we were in the van, like putting like a campsite or whatever else. So we ended up just driving about, getting knocked back off of like every campsite I think we went to try, and then eventually just went, right, cool, we were already in the kind of countryside, but it's like, let's just find a place we can pull up. So this is about 4 or 5 in the morning, probably about this time, is that we've pulled up to this. Little did we know it was actually a full cul-de-sac, but we pulled up
it
to
was a
this
wee
place.
country lane, we thought, man.
And we just thought we're like we're in the woods, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it was obviously pitch black and you couldn't see it, and then it's like, obviously these wee estates have got like 2 street lamps in it, so we just went, right, cool, we're just next to this big bush kind of thing. So we've all tried to go to bed, so I've climbed in the back of the
He's
back
taxed
of the van.
the gear
The
at
back
the
of
back, man, you know.
So I'm in the back of the van sleeping on all the amps and all that. And
And that was the comfiest bed, by the way.
Ewan's just went, Ewan was driving, so he's went like that in between things. So Drew at the time, who was a bass player, he's like, him and Stu were in the middle, and obviously during the night it ended up getting freezing. Like it was probably like a kind of Bear Grylls scenario for the 2 of them. Like,
No, it was, honestly.
Survival moment.
I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm in my sleeping bag, and I've just kind of peeked out from the boot. He's like, and the two of them are just sharing this bag like that. body heat material. We're actually going to die here.
I'll describe this, man. So I woke up, right, whatever time it was, such and such in the morning, right, and it was absolutely freezing cold, man, right. I woke up and I was like, oh my god, and I looked at Drew and he's like, cold into it, man, and then
small week, freezing that.
Just watching you sleep, man.
I turned in and I was like, I don't think we're going to make this, mate. I seriously don't think we're going to make it, man. Like through the night.
This is how it ends.
But I had like this black sort of like, it's like, see, like weed control fabric. I took that with us to like cover the gear when we weren't in the van.
Just in case any sprouted up during the night.
No, it was like to cover up the gear. to cover up the gear, right? I tell you what, man, I was like to Drew, we could wrap ourselves in that, man, right? So the weed control fabric get whipped out, man. And we wrapped ourselves in it, right? And I turned around to him and I was like to him, mate, this is going to work.
I'm in the bit pissing myself laughing. And the two of them are pretty much near enough naked, wrapped in this big wooden bag.
No, less than naked. We were fully clothed, man. But like, I did cuddle into his bosom, man, for heat. Honestly, mate, it was a nightmare. But
Weed
So
control.
when we thought we were parked, we just kept on going in and out to go to the bathroom like the full night. And then when we woke up in the morning, it was like obviously like sun pure splitting the gut. We'd just been actually just pissing in this guy's like he had like a wee
he's like a wee river at the bottom of his garden, man. Like this is his private
we were essentially parked at the front of his driveway. He couldn't get any of his cars out, and we'd just been pissing in this wee pond that he had. we thought it was like just a wee river that was going by. We were just been pissing in it. So that was up there. I'm trying to remember anything else really.
So you were going to be going on tour this year, weren't you?
We were meant to be part of 2 tours this year.
Yeah.
But
has that just been postponed until next year?
Well, hopefully.
Well, one of the gigs was postponed till later on this year, but we're not doing it. It's just we don't think it's going to be going ahead, sort of thing. So, but we've been approached a few times to do different things this year, and it's just getting to the point now we're just literally just going to wait. Yeah. And as soon as things are kind of up and running again, we're going to be planning a few more weekenders and stuff like that.
The next thing I think we're meant to headline the West End Festival when they do that Mitchell Street party.
Yeah, Queen Margaret Drive.
Queen Margaret Drive. I don't know where I get Mitchell Street from.
That's not
big up to Mitchell Street.
That's not actually been announced yet, Rob.
I know. Oh, sorry, that's not happening.
No, it's definitely Mitchell Street then,
Mitchell Street.
People just turned up to the wrong place. Is there a gig on?
I mean, that could literally be anywhere.
So I suppose then, with a year of kind of disappointment as far as missing gigs and festivals and touring and all that, the big highlight for you both, or for the whole band, would have been the BT Music thing.
That was cool, man. Getting featured in that.
So tell us basically what's happening with that.
Well, it's basically I don't know, it just kind of popped out at random. It was basically like our manager was in contact with BT TV, and he was like, he's got a few bands, and then out of all the bands he was like, yeah, these would work, these wouldn't work, and he was like, yeah, that Layaway song, we'll take that, and we're like, jackpot. No songs on telly, so it's basically it's in their playlist and stuff like that.
So it's on their daily rotation, so obviously if like a BT Sport and stuff like that, like they can pick it up so it can be played like during the football and stuff like that as well. So
really what I wanted to get like featured in some sort of show or something like that, man. It's like, you know,
just went half time at like a Livingston Rangers game, man. Just like, come on.
You come on and sing the national anthem.
Like maybe like Andy Murray or that playing in all years. That sounded nothing like the song, by the way. But like that would be brilliant though. That's kind of what we're hoping for. But it's a massive achievement.
It's a good contact to get, because obviously the next one we'll always try and, that's one thing with this band is we always just try and improve. The next song's just like, you know, how can we raise the bar, how can we want the next one, just try. I think that you can actually see a good progression in our songs, and it is getting better as we're going along, so it is a good thing. You see bands that they kind of peak and then they just kind of stay, they either just stay at that or don't go forward, and I think we do always try and kind of push the boundaries a bit, and how can we make this next one bigger and better and whatever else, you know?
I've noticed it. So last time I went to see you guys was at King Tut's, and I said to Rob, I was like, mate, that was awesome. And see the whole cinematic atmospheric thing, it really comes across, because I think it's different. Unless you're sitting on like a mountaintop listening to it, you probably wouldn't feel the atmosphere as much. If you're just sitting in your bedroom listening to it, you might like the song, but it's not going to hit you the same. Whereas when you listen to you guys live, I think it is the hair standing in the arms moment, because the whole thing, you're caught up in the atmosphere of the crowd. you're caught up in the atmosphere of the crowd as well, and I think it really comes across that way.
Aye,
So I
feel
think
that.
it's a shame that people have not been able to see you live
aye,
this year.
it's very. I think we do generally fucking write music for like a live scenario. It's very much a live scenario. It's obviously the main thing you want to really do is you want to take somebody in when you're writing a song. Do you know what I mean? I think that's one of the main reasons why we've been trying to write completely different. So rather than doing like EPs and stuff like that, where you listen to one song and like if you don't like the first song, you're not going to listen to the other three.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? So we'd really just try to do single after single. So the fact that putting everything behind one song and then that way, like, no matter what, it's going to get listened to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then it's that
absolutely.
person's preference after that, rather than writing like 3 or 4 songs and then.
I think
I
if
hope
we've
that one
seen,
sticks.
Aye,
Yeah,
I mean, they
it's
could have a
yeah.
great song in there, but like,
Yeah.
not everybody's going to listen to it. Do you know what I mean? If they don't like the first song.
seen too many bands like you release an EP or an album and you build up to it and it's like, you know, you could be talking like a year's worth of work,
Yeah.
all building towards this one thing, and you know, here it is, it's released, and then right, what's next? Because people are so boom, everything's so quick
Yeah,
nowadays. I mean,
yeah.
you, if you're lucky, they might listen to it through one pass, or they might just listen to the first song like that, no, that's fine, and the other 3 songs are disregarded. Whereas like small consistent releases is definitely, I mean, we always
It's made a
peak.
big difference for us, definitely.
We always peak, and it definitely that's something we next, you know, 2021 we're going to be trying to release more across the whole year and creating like a body of work. And at the end of the year we might do like a release where it's like, you know, here's 2021's body of work, and then move on to the next one. But having that consistent sort of peak of releases and just building the momentum
I think
consistently, you know.
you be able to chart the chronology of the band then, not even just through like progression, but through as you get older, stylistically your preferences will change. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So you'll be able to chart it year on year. Well, this
Aye.
is the way it's gone. You know, that'd be really interesting
Aye,
to see.
creates more of a story as well, man. You know,
Yeah,
very
very
much.
much so.
It's probably it shows kind of the kind of double-edged sword that the streaming services are, because like you say, you could go and put all that effort into making it an EP, and then someone's like, well, what's next?
Aye.
And you
Well-
can, if you constantly like just releasing singles and stuff like that, it's one of those things. It satisfies people's need to have that, but it kind of takes away from the kind of concept album or putting an EP together.
Well,
you know what I mean?
even Spotify have come out and said that they're going to push more artists who do release more consistently, and that's the one bit the CEO he was like, that's the one bit of advice I could give bands is, you know, keep giving us content and we'll push your algorithm up. We'll push you further towards algorithm and playlists positions, which is what you want in Spotify.
Absolutely, yeah, of course.
Do you know what's funny? It's the same. It's kind of how everything's went nowadays, because it's the same with social media. The overwhelming tactic that everyone is given.
Post every day.
Consistent.
Consistent content. And we have Cool Kid and Ilion, and Ryan basically he's doing exactly what you're doing, rather than constructing an EP as like a subset of his future album. He's just every month or every 2 months or whatever, like firing it.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? And
I just think it's way forward, man, definitely.
Well, the only reason we had albums was because of the limitations on vinyl and CD, because they could only take so many minutes. So it's like, here's my album, it's 40 minutes long, that's all it could take. Whereas now you could release an album with 100 songs on it.
Yeah.
There's no limitation on that. So it's a weird position that we're in, because we're really fortunate that the world's never been more accessible. You can literally upload a track and someone can listen to it across the world. But the double edge of that is that basically you've not got this whole, you know, you're not tying yourself to an album, and people don't really like, they can't invest as much into one thing. It's more like, you know, well, where's the next one? You know what I mean?
I think it's becoming an archaic notion. Like an album, like the same way as like a record is an archaic notion, but I think there is still a nostalgia thing for people who want to have. I mean, you look at Bowie, right, and Ziggy Stardust. That was like a concept thing, but you probably wouldn't get something like that now. Or if you did, it'd be maybe one track that they would do something different. You're not going to get someone going away for 6 to 8 months to record this concept album to release it. You know,
Or it would have to be a kind of more like longer set thing, where it's like Ellie's doing. She's doing these things with like it's all kind of colours. So she goes in and then she'll release certain songs like in this theme, and then it moves on, and then she's on a different theme and there's different releases.
If you look at Prince released a song as a woman. It was called Camille.
Right.
And he basically took his voice up an octave in post and released an album as a woman. You couldn't do that now.
No.
I mean, like, even the last thing I can remember, so there's a band called like Sleep Token down south, and they released the same album 3 times with like 3 different artwork covers on it, but it's the exact same album,
The
but on
Rasmus did that
Spotify.
as well.
And like, when you go on, like, it's the exact same songs in every album, but like because you've listened to one, you go, oh, well, is that different? So like the same songs
I
get
can
like
remember
double the
that.
play. Do you know what I mean? Like because you go, oh, I wonder. Then you listen to the full song just in case like they put something at the end of whatever else, and you go,
Yeah.
I've just been duped here. Do you know what I mean? But like at the same time, you're like, that's a great PR stunt. Do you know what I mean?
And what they
Yeah.
also did as well, going down this whole thing of singles, they basically released 7 singles from that album before the album dropped, and every single had its own merch tied to it. So every single time they released one, it was like, well, here's the new set of merch and designs for this single. So it was almost people like, well, what's the next one? And it was almost like a kind of collection, become part of our
That's
cult
quite
almost.
clever.
No,
Pokemon songs.
Aye,
Got to
pretty
catch
much.
them all.
Pokemon song.
Shiny merch, you know.
Right, okay, guys. So with this kind of sort of stagnant year that we've had, and you were saying yourself, you've had time to reflect and ingest. Where do you see the band going in the future?
Hopefully touring a bit more. Hopefully we'd love to try and get into Europe or America or any of these places just to play further afield than
What
we
about
were playing.
Guatemala? I'll give them a shout out.
Yeah, no,
See you soon.
just like we've kind of like the band's already done a lot of things that I'd never thought I'd do as a musician, and especially in Glasgow. I never thought I'd play the Barrowlands, and we've done that. And I never thought we'd do a session for BBC, and we've done that, which it still blows my mind. You know what I mean? I've still got the contract in the house that says Layaway at the top, and you know BBC are going to pay you money to do it. And it's like, this is crazy, man. It's cool, man. You know what I mean? But because you're chipping away all the time, it's not until you reflect and look back, you're like, a year ago I didn't do that, and if you'd said to me a year ago you're going to do that, you wouldn't believe probably, or 5 years ago I wouldn't have believed it. You know what I mean? So you just keep chipping away, and I'm going to quote, I think it was Jim Carrey actually, and he says, you know, there's like opportunity at a door. See, if you don't take that door, there's plenty of other doors, and you're going to keep getting doors you can walk through the door at any point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the key, is just chipping away, and you see too many bands that just give up because they're like, well, we need to get signed, we need to make it, we need to do this, and you're like, you're not in music. See if your music's got this glass ceiling at the end of it. When you hit that, what's going to happen then?
Yeah.
Say you sell at Wembley, what do you do?
I know.
You don't all of a sudden go, alright, that's me, I'm happy. Sold at
that's
Wembley.
it.
You go, alright, let's sell it 2 nights at Wembley. Or whatever, man, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just all about chipping away constantly, man. You know what I mean? And that's what it is for me anyway.
Well, I totally agree with that as well. But like, I think for me as well, it's just I like that surprise notion. I like the fact that you've put in that much work and then these things come out of nowhere, like that BT thing or whatever. And you go,
Even the
"Alright,
magazine
cool."
stuff.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
like obviously I've had a few spreads and like that discovered and stuff like that as well. But like that kind of thing, like that's a thing that goes like me. Alright, cool, we're doing something right here, because you chip away and you chip away, and like don't get me wrong, sometimes, and like anybody in it that's ever been in a band will obviously say the same. Like it is draining, man, and you get this kind of you get this point like over a certain period of months where you go, oh man, like, do you feel it all in our cunt off here? Sorry. And then like we're going nowhere with it, and then like and then you get these wee glimmers of hope, and you go, oh well, we must be doing something right. Do you know what I mean? But that for me, like that definitely keeps me going as well. Like, see when these wee things drop, and you go, oh, that's amazing.
But that's it. It's like
Well chuffed.
it's the more content we release. It always there's kind of wee peaks of like when we do things, and it's like the BT TV thing. It's just cool because you get the email through. It's like, oh, we've got this guaranteed, and you're like, it's cool, man. You know, it's.
I mean, and it's just something you don't see every day as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously, like people get gigs everywhere or whatever else, but you get these wee things. You go, oh, it's quite unique. Do you know what I mean?
It's
It's
different.
recognition.
Aye.
It's recognition.
That's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah,
A
and
bit of validation in it.
yeah, of course, and it means that you're going the right way. And also, especially, I think nowadays for rock music, it's a difficult time for rock music just now. You know, because
Has been for a few years now, man.
yeah,
aye.
I mean, because it's not. I mean, you remember back in the days where it was the bands. Do you know what I mean? So you had
Yeah.
the Strokes, the Vines, and all that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everyone was right into it. And then it's just fallen off the radar now. We went through the DJ Guetta stage. David Guetta, sorry, not DJ Guetta. His middle
Love Heart
name's
sounds
his
now.
name's John. DJ Braveheart. So we kind of went through that, and then we're at a weird kind of Kygo-y stage just now. So it's obviously your music's nothing like that as well. So you kind of got to bang the drum even harder, you know.
Yeah.
These things go in waves, though. Do you know what I mean? I think
Very much so.
it always ends up coming back round. I mean, like, I think when you think back, you never thought of bands like Bring Me the Horizon that would ever been played in Radio 1. Do you know what I mean? And
No,
then-
yeah, yeah.
right now,
Architects.
Like, like
Well, think
Architects.
how much,
things like that.
how much Bring Me the Horizon have changed.
Aye.
I know, but like,
Yeah, crazy, man.
even their older stuff, like the likes of like Zane Lona, like putting them out and stuff like that as well, and you'd never ever thought that would have ever been on like mainstream radio, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's kind of cool and it's awkward at the same time, do you know what I mean? I think because it goes in that kind of backwards stuff, I think, so like dance music even, so for ages, like it was dead housey, then you went through that stage where it was like drum and bass, like in every dance track, and then
Dubstep, man.
Dubstep,
aye, like, and then it comes round again, do you know what I mean? Like, and then like people now like you're getting bands like 1975, so the 80s is kind of coming back a wee bit.
Mate, we love the 80s.
All that kind of stuff.
Do you know what I think that's come from? Netflix. See
Aye,
if you watch any Netflix programme,
it's all synthwave stuff in there.
Synthwave, everyone's
Aye.
all into it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's really
so that kind of stuff
piggybacked
kind
on
of
it.
click, and like, it's crazy to see how it does all come back. But at one point in time, like I think it always does.
I think there's always going to be room for like a great song, and like, I think that's all we can do is just keep trying to write great songs and like I mean, we were so guilty of writing 5-minute epics years ago, right? But we're trying to condense.
The radio just goes nah.
We're trying to refine things though and try and get under that, you know, that kind of 3.5 minute mark. 'Cause that's your kind of golden, you know, 3-minute 20 song is your kind of perfect thing. So it's just about kind of like trying to get that as a goal and working towards it. And there's always going to be room for a great song, you know what I mean? And the one thing with this band, it has always been about being, you know, get a big epic tune, man, you know what I mean? And if we can do that, I'd be happy if we get into like an advert or something like that. So I really think it would work there, you know what I mean? You know, that'd be like, for me, that'd be like a goal. Hopefully I can pay the house off or something like that, man, you know what I mean?
Right, gentlemen, well I think that's actually a very good way to finish it today. Thanks very much for coming in to speak to us.
Thanks so much for having us, man.
Not a problem at all, and I hope that in 2021 you actually get to play live.
Aye, be
Yeah,
good.
cool, man.
If you're listening, book us. We're free.
Right, I'm just going to sign off just now. Thanks very much folks for listening. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons.